So Peter, you're on. Can I start with you? What I might try and do is share the questions out one by one so that everyone gets a chance, because I probably won't get through all of them, quite a lot. So Peter, Bea said, thank you for a brilliant start to the day. You mentioned right at the end about a new ring development in Avon. Whereabouts is this?
Oh, this is the it's also called Shakespeare Country. It's Warwickshire, Oxfordshire sort of area around Stratford upon Avon, but going down to the Rollright Stones and so on like that. Sarah will show pictures of it later on today, but it's the sweet swan of Avon. It's a Shakespeare area really, but in terms of the British zodiac, which is very ancient, laid out by the Celts first and then carried on in different cultures, including those who were behind the writing of Shakespeare and so on. It corresponds to Cygnus. You know, if you project the sky on the ground to make the landscape zodiac, or the relationship between the two, the Cygnus area, the swan area of that British zodiac is right here where we live, not far from Stratford upon Avon, between Banbury and Stratford upon Avon. So that's the area. And we've been working with this for a long time, with pilgrimage and tuning in and talking to the angels and so on. And suddenly, to my surprise, the angels suddenly grew huge into what I call watchers, which I link with the star Sirius, the sun behind the sun, and started linking up in a whole network of light and masses of angelic and spiritual beings pouring into it from above. So to me, it's become a holy grail, and now the greater thing can come in from the universe. So it's very, for me, it's very, very exciting. Should take off.
Okay, that's lovely, Peter. Thank you. In fact, I'll ask you a second question because I think it's quite related from Katrina. Can we use the arts to produce holy grails in other parts of the land, like Shakespeare?
Absolutely. The arts is what it's all about. In fact, British Isles are named after the goddess Britannia. She's the same as Pallas Athena or Minerva. And Pallas Athena is the 10th muse. And she's the one who rescues everything. She rescues the golden hearts of all human beings, of all nature. She's the muse of all the arts, sing, dance, do all that sort of thing. But in harmony, must be in harmony with nature. Listen to the land. The land will tell you what to sing, will tell you how to dance and so on like that. You don't want to impose your dance or songs. You want to allow, listen to my heart song. It's so much, that's the key to it. Sing and dance in harmony with the land itself.
That's lovely. It's a bit like David said about what we're given, not just what we take. So the same with the dance and music. If we're given it, we can express it.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, Sarah, I'll ask you a couple of questions. Helen Woodsford-Dean asked, she says these are brilliant connections between the sovereignty of the land and the present monarchy. Or there are, I'm not sure. The need for an Arthurian method of service as kingship is vital. Thank you. Are you able to comment on that?
I'd just say, yeah, totally agree.
Totally agree.
And not just kingship, but I think corporate leadership at every level.
Yes. Yes, that's the new version of kingship, really.
Yeah.
And Helen also said, likewise in Orkney, the North deities really demand to be known and heard. It surprised me when it happened. So I think similar point perhaps. Anyway, David, again, Helen asked, she just mentions the war against terrorism and says, oh, what an irony. What you said about the wars, warring against everything, against nature. And Katrina mentions she's reminded of Mother Teresa saying she would never go to an anti-war rally, but if there was a pro-peace one, she'd be up for it.
I like that. I think Satish Kumar would agree, and I think that I gave a lecture about 10 years ago called "Wise as Serpents, Gentle as Doves," and what I was arguing there is that we need to be aware of the shenanigans that are going on and not be naive about it. But at the same time, we need to dedicate ourselves to bringing in a new earth, a new world, and to love and wisdom. And it's quite tricky because one can easily get caught up in the amount of negativity that is circulating.
Yes, but as you say, you have to be aware and wise of what is actually happening in order to do something. So back to
know what you're up against, in that sense.
Yes, exactly. Otherwise, it can become very unrealistic. Back to Peter. No, I can't remember who asked this. Can you share some thoughts about how to connect or encourage a connection to the angel of the landscape if one lives in an area that is not so obviously beautiful, as we've seen in your photographs of Iona? In other words, if the place where we live seems to be bereft of nature or has nature in very small pockets only.
Well, a quick answer to that. There are also angels in cities and city centres. It just depends on the use of the place that it's connected with. I mean, just for an instance, in London, I mean, there's a lot of ghastly things one could say about the culture that's developed in the heart of London, and yet it's enormously good at the same time. It's like these contrasts. But I think that's what the world's about, and we're here to learn how to make everything better and turn the ghastly things into something good. And but you know the huge angel over, for instance, St. Paul's Cathedral, colossal angel, and that's doing some wonderful things. We just have to link in with it, which one can do first of all just by being aware, by attuning. You know, tuning is a wonderful name. You attune, and which means listening. And the more you listen, the more we'll open our outer major chakra, so to the back of the neck. We find suddenly that expands, and then it opens inspiration. And that's how the angels, or spirit of the land, actually speaks to us through this inspiration, inspires into our heart, and from the heart it speaks through the throat to the mind and the head, and then we get the visions. So listening is the key to it, really. Listen. And same thing in conversations with people. Listen to them. Don't be so egoistic. You all the time you're only thinking about what you're going to say. You know, listen to somebody properly and then respond at the appropriate moment. It's listen. Key to everything. And also go gently. Walk gently on the land. Don't force one's way through. Be gentle, be friendly. And the word friendship or friend is associated with the word freedom and free. And it comes from a Sanskrit word free or pri, which means love. Friendship means loving each other. And freedom means a state of love. You know, how that's been interpreted nowadays is a corruption of its original meaning. To be a state of freedom means you're in a state of love. And that's what we need to spread. Yeah. As all the speakers have said so far, love is the key to everything.
Love is the key.
Yeah.
So thank you, Peter. It was Tracy who asked that. So Tracy, I hope that's a very helpful answer. I'm sure it will be. Vanya, this is for Sarah, sorry. Vanya notes that the Aborigines had that extraordinary reconnecting stroke completion ceremony last February, as the dream time foretold. Presumably you're aware of that, Sarah.
Yes, and it, in my understanding, it was linked to the manifesting of the last of the Emperor Dragons. So at some level, it was all interconnected. You know, none of these things happen by coincidence at all.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the Aboriginal peoples are completely connected, aren't they?
Yes, totally.
And also for you, Katrina asked, she says, I'm wondering if this revisioning of who we are and what we can be ties into revising our view of history and myth. For example, Arthur and his knights as ancient aliens who came from elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Arthur and his knights. I haven't thought of them in that way before, but that's going to set me off on another path. But yeah, very much so. I mean, I've done a lot of digging around at all sorts of levels, and we don't know the truth of who we are at any level. Our history is not what we're being told. So one of the things that we need to do is to reclaim that, is to start to reclaim that and reclaim that sense of what's gone before. Very important.
Yeah.
That's our foundation to build forwards on.
Yeah, I just come in on that point. I've just read a new book by Peter Kingsley. I don't know how many of you know Peter Kingsley's work. It's called A Book of Life. And as you may know, his work is focused on Empedocles and Parmenides, the pre-Socratic philosophers. And he says, we've forgotten that we've forgotten.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as you know, I said as well, we're a species with amnesia, and that amnesia has been very deliberately fostered. So it is a question of getting behind that, digging behind that, and going back to see what's been deliberately hidden from us.
Well, also to the origins, what I refer to as the original instructions.
Yes.
And so the origins of Western culture, according to Kingsley, and I think he's right, are in mysticism and gnosis and sacred knowing and bliss and ecstasy. That's what we need to remember. We don't need logic chopping in philosophy departments and philosophy defined entirely by the left hemisphere. We need philosophy related to and lived in life.
I couldn't say it better. Wonderful.
Which comes back to that marvelous book. Is it the thinking of it earlier, The Emissary and His Servant.
Oh, The Master and His Emissary.
The Master and His Emissary. Sorry.
Yes,
yeah.
this is his new one is 2 volumes called The Matter with Things.
Oh, it's the same
And
stuff.
this is his definitive statement. And one of the endorsers said it's one of the most important books ever published. And I rather agree with that, what I've read so far, because I've known Ian for 40 years, and so maybe I'm biased.
Well, yes, that's Ian McGilchrist for anyone who has missed that. I think we should all read it if we can. So going back to Peter, Katrina asks, she connects to a question connects to an understanding if we need to travel to key points in the landscape, or can we activate key landscape points, for example, Iona, from elsewhere? Can we use the arts to produce holy grails in other parts of the land, like Shakespeare at the Globe, affecting Avebury or Glastonbury, or casting out a wide circle, activating the wider landscape?
Well, the answer to that is yes to both things, really. We can communicate with anything we get attuned to, basically. If we're tuned to it, we got that immediate connection. And clairvoyantly, it can be seen like, if it's in love, if the communication's in love, it's a line of light, you know, one can see it clairvoyantly. Just like places also communicate with each other, trees communicate with each other and so on. And it's not just through the root system that trees do it, it's also in other ways through their chakras. Every tree has a chakra system and so on. And so does the landscape. But we have to attune in love to a place, and then we've immediately got that connection. Then you can listen to it, you can talk to it, find out what it needs, and then send it whatever you can to meet those needs. And love is magic. Love is a fantastic thing, but it works in it works in miraculous ways, and sometimes ways we can't even conceive of. You know, it's miraculous. Sometimes it happens quickly, sometimes it takes a long time. We just have to allow it, you know, become, you know, grail vessels to allow the greater light to come through us and then communicate along these lines we link with 2 different places. But pilgrimage, if you can do it physically by pilgrimage, it's a kind of stronger for us. We get a much stronger connection by physically being present there or walking the land. So the answer is yes, we can communicate like we're communicating now, you know, on the internet. It's another network of communication. We can communicate inwardly, heart to heart and so on, and mind to mind. But if we can actually walk the land too, it kind of earths it, it grounds it, and gives it that extra strength. But both are needed.
Both are needed, yes.
Yeah.
So another question for Sarah. Rob says one person asked where in Spain the node is that you mentioned. And then Rob says that some dragon energy is transferred to me, maybe from your visit to the node in Spain. I've been visiting a second order node with the EDI in the Netherlands. And if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that some of that energy is transferring, because it's, you know, the sort of coding of it very much sits within my energy system, which I hope I'm sharing and inspiring all of you with, basically. So, fingers crossed on that one. As for exactly where the node is, you know, I'll say it's in southern Spain, but I won't go further than that at this moment. Can I suggest that you contact Rory? The reason I say that is these are very, very powerful points in the earth. And while I know that everyone here is working with very benign and loving intent, not everybody works that way. And what we don't want are people turning up at the node who have different, you know, a different approach to things. So connect with Rory and start a dialogue with him about it. I don't want to sort of trample. He is the guardian of that node at the moment. He has a vision. He has a vision that there will at some point be, you know, a great center opened at that node where we can go and we can meditate and we can, you know, have retreats and things like that. I mean, that would be simply amazing to be able to share it. But at this moment, caution is possibly needed. And I think the same with all our all the nodal points through the land. They are power centers. Yeah. And they're, you know, treated as tourist attractions a lot of the time, and we maybe need, that's one of the things we need to rethink.
Yes, definitely. Well, there's another question about nodes actually. Katrina asks about activating the dreamer in the land. Should we be thinking then of connecting in terms of being nodes ourselves between spirits of the land and cosmic galactic beings? This is the best way to help the dreaming of Gaia.
Yes, and I think Peter said it beautifully. Become the Grail. If we can start to embody, you know, do the work ourselves and start to embody this, we can become these nodal points. We can become these points of light. I see us very much as becoming beacons, those of us who are doing this work, becoming beacons of light, hopefully attracting other moths towards us to be transformed beside us.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And David, Katrina asked, oh no, she doesn't ask actually, she mentions the Prince of Wales is both patron of Plant Life Charity and the Temenos Academy. So there's an intersection there in terms of both sacred traditions, both of sacred traditions, and applying those to a sense of stewardship.
Well, absolutely, and that's why I wrote my book, Radical Prince. You know, and I do wonder. I wonder whether he knew about St. John's Chapel though, because I'm sure if he doesn't, he would want to know, because I think he's the kind of person who would want to follow in those footsteps when the time comes.
Yeah,
very interesting.
Very interesting. I don't know whether he does.
And as you people may know, I mean, he had a very long correspondence with Kathleen Raine, who was the founder of the Temenos Academy. There's 150 letters going each way, and I think, you know, maybe in, you know, a long time hence they should be published, because I'm sure there will be huge interest. He gave the eulogy at her funeral.
One would hope that you know, as part of the royal tradition, future kings would be taught about St. John's Chapel.
Absolutely. I mean, tradition is essential to his whole outlook, and it means hand-on.
Yes. Okay, Peter, thank you. Klaas has asked, he says, Geoffrey Hayward introduces the spelling stroke naming of the Grail as the Graal, Graal, in the Arthurian Brotherhood article, which appeared in the White Eagle magazine. Do you know where that spelling originates from?
Not straight away offhand. There are different spellings of it and different writings.
Yes.
I think that's probably, it might even be in Catalan or Occitan, the GRR GRAAL.
Thank you. I think it's 12:50. I think probably it would be a good time for everyone to have some lunch. We may not have answered all the questions, but we've done quite a few of them. So I would like to just thank everybody, particularly our wonderful speakers. I mean, you've been so inspiring. And we've got some also inspiring talks this afternoon, which have a slightly more practical or experiential aspect to them, which I think we'll all find fascinating. So if everyone would like to go and have some lunch and something to eat and drink and nourish them and some fresh air perhaps, and be back here by 2 p.m. please. And we will continue this wonderful conference this afternoon. Thank you very much.